Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being with us today. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Gregory Dewerpe. It's founder of AO PropTech. It's the European largest PropTech venture capital. And it's a real pleasure to having you, Gregory, with us today. Thank you so much. As with the other interviews, basically, I'm gonna explain how this is gonna the setup for the next 30 minutes. So it's going to be a short interview. The idea is that our audience is going to get to know you better, not only not get to know AO PropTech, but also you as an entrepreneur, your beginnings. These are all stories that people love to hear. This is also part of our Master of Science in Real Estate that we launched at ESCP this year. It's a very successful master. We have already 36 students from all over the world. We have part of the master is very much PropTech. We have 45 hours in PropTech. And we decided to launch this series of interviews with leaders in the sector, such as you. Just a few words about ESCP Business School. We are, in addition to the Master of Science in Real Estate, we are launching other programs. We also signed a very nice agreement with the government of Monaco on real estate tech innovations. And we also have agreements with other partners such as BNP Paribas Real Estate. So we have many very interesting goals ahead, such as like building an incubator for PropTech. So just to say that real estate tech or PropTech, it's very much our focus now. So it's really, really great having you here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Gregory, I mean, we're gonna go through the interview. People are gonna get to know you better, but just wanna say that you already have 15 years of experience in the banking and finance sector before joining, before entering this passionate world of real estate tech. So can we go back, Gregory, to your beginnings? So you were studying economics and business at the university. So I mean, first question is, why did you decide to study economics? And if there were people around you that influence you, and how was that influence on you?
Sure. So look, I think I was very early on had a passion for economics, macroeconomics, studying kind of long-term mega trends. I was a bit of a geek when I was a kid. I didn't have that many friends, so I spent a lot of time studying and reading. And to be honest, when I graduated, you know, from when I was 18, I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do. What was my passion? I did not find a passion, and so for me, I needed to find and do something which would allow me to stay a generalist, continue to have the ability to learn about different sectors, different industries, so that then one day I could make a more educated choice. So for me, economics, finance was always something that I enjoyed. Something that I found useful for my personal life. It's something that you find useful to understand business, other people, businesses, and eventually your business that you started. So that was for me kind of a launch pad to do other things later.
And so then you finish your university degree, and then you're going to start in finance. So how were those beginnings, and was there any influence on you, so that we know that afterwards you founded AO PropTech? But so what was that part of your life? How was that?
It's a part of my life that so when I finished university, I was in London. I was at the London School of Economics, and at the time, and this was 2004, 2003, you know, becoming an investment banker was like the thing that everyone wanted to do, and I took it as a challenge. So I went there thinking, you know, I'm going to see what it's like. I'm going to understand what the fuss is about, and you know, I'll do a year or two, and then, you know, let's see how it goes. To be honest, when I think about the few years of my career, it was not great. I didn't enjoy it that much. When I entered investment banking, it was an industry, this was pre-2008. So this was an industry which was very self-centered, and they were armed with the belief that they were the smartest people in the world, that and that they were controlling the world, and it was lacking humility, and it was a kind of a relatively hostile environment for young people. This idea that you had to go through a lot of tough times, you had to spend 20 hours a day at your desk. It was a very hard school. At the same time, I think it was something that taught me discipline, hard work, self-control, understanding going through hardship, understanding dealing with more difficult people. So I think it's something that no degree or nothing you study will ever prepare you for dealing with adversity in the first years of your career. So I think for that was great for me, because it really prepared me for pretty much anything that could happen later.
And what type of investments you were doing by the time?
So when I started, you start as an analyst pool, in the M&A pool, whatever, and then you're industry agnostic. And then I went to specialize in a team that was within investment banking, focusing on capital markets investments, so financing, derivatives, acquisition, on the structuring side, so the quite technical side, which was something that I enjoyed, and that's where I started.
And then it's 2013-14, you decided to end your career in the financial sector. And then basically that was kind of a point where might bring you to A&O. How do you see that time in your life?
Yes, so look,
banking, right?
I turned 30, and I realized that I knew already that banking was not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I had a great job, but I found that this was relatively uninspiring for me. And so I knew at the time I was single, I didn't have any responsibilities from a family standpoint. So I also knew that this was my last chance to live and take a big decision, which is to leave, a career after 10 years. Because I only had myself to take care of, and I knew that if I didn't leave now, I would never be able to leave later. So I left. I left not knowing what I was going to do, but I felt very strongly about what I didn't want to do, and that was to stay in banking. And so from there, it was not a easy period, because you go out of this kind of filtered environment. You're in a bank, everything kind of is filtered before you go, and then you go into the real world. You have to find yourself. You're 30, you don't necessarily have the credibility of raising money straight away, and so it took me a couple of years to find my footing, and then I started real estate advisory practice, which then turned out to become a real estate special situations fund. And then as I was doing that, which was a great journey for me, life-changing few years. Then I decided that I wanted to do something where I could project myself into the future. I could really have as much inspiration as I had motivation. And so the disruption of the real estate industry and the rise of technology within this industry was something that became of extreme interest for me, and all the implications that come with it.
And then 5 years later, 2019, you decided to found AO PropTech. I would like to know, this is probably the most interesting part, like, what were the main challenges? How did you raise the money? How did you start? Who were your teammates in that time? Where you were afraid of, like all those things that are this very first time when you've found a company?
Look, it was a big challenge, because I had finally found something that was going well. The real estate fund, the advisory were performing super well, so I didn't necessarily have to go and find something else to do. But I felt very strongly about not only trying to disrupt something new, because I looked at the PropTech venture capital ecosystem in Europe, and it was not very mature. There was not many players, or I've actually no players that were doing it at scale. There was nobody that raised, significant amount of capital. At the same time, I was always interested when I looked at the venture capital model. I thought that, counterintuitively, venture capital is there to promote change and disruption, but the venture capital model had not necessarily changed over the last few decades. It's been the same model, the venture capital fund model. So I said, look, I'm going to start something from zero, which is challenging, but at the same time, you have zero legacy behind you. So you're able to really think independently and try to do things in a way that really fits your aspiration and your DNA. And so for me, the idea was, let's build a different kind of firm. And I purposely call it a firm. I don't like to use the word fund. I call it a firm because there's culture, there is people, there is strategy, there is vision, there is mission. Fund, sometimes I find it to be a bit limiting. It just sounds like it's a purely kind of financial engineering. But what we're building is something very different. So I had the chance to, someone that was a long-standing friend of mine that was, working for a long time in data science and in technology, who I trusted, that, come and basically we roll up our sleeves together to go and do this, and really build the infrastructure, the system, everything from zero. When it comes to raising the money, obviously we were not, this was something where I was able to go and see some of my existing investors or people that had been with me for a long time that were decided to trust me on this new vision, and decided to take a chance on, what we were going to do. So, I was lucky in a way that I was able to do that. And so we kind of almost did things the reverse, which is we raised the money almost before we had kind of set everything up. And so it went very, very quickly, which the biggest challenge for me was we have to move fast, we have to accelerate, we have huge ambition, but some things that will always be bottleneck, finding the right people, hiring the right talent. Some things just take time, because otherwise, if you want to hire people quickly, you will sacrifice quality over speed, and you have to make important decisions. Because for me, I'm not intending to build a firm that has too many people, so each person really matters. Each person has to really play a role that's instrumental in what we're trying to do, and so therefore, it's something that's probably been our biggest challenge, is really making sure that we can grow fast, but yet not sacrifice, our culture, our vision, our DNA.
And you said something that caught my attention. So basically, you were raising the money before everything was set up. And were you already doing due diligence in terms of looking at some companies, potential startups? Did you present that to the investors, or you just came with the idea and say, well, these are what I have in mind?
Look, yeah, we were more advanced than I explained it. So we had already kind of built a very strong thesis, and we had decided, and I designed kind of this business model, which was, we're trying to disrupt the largest asset class in the world, the biggest industry in the world, and it's an industry that has never embraced technology. So for me, the only way this industry had a real chance to change is if you were able to convert and disrupt the largest incumbents of this industry, the largest enterprise in the industry. So our view was, let's go and raise money from those guys, because if we can work with those guys, if they invest money with us, they will be aligned with us, we'll have access to their assets, and then we can not only make sound investments, but we can get real life feedback loop from end users. We can give commercial scale to our portfolio companies because we have access to the large enterprise B2B customers. And so the thesis was very strong, which is we have tools that other people don't have. We have the end user, we have the market, and we have the capital. So, and we had a few use cases. So we had started doing a few investments as we were setting up the funds that were either done personally or, in a warehousing facility kind of first. So we were quite advanced. What I mean that we had not built the whole team, we had not build all the systems and everything before kind of getting the commitment and the support from investors that were extremely forward thinking. and kind of willing to trust our vision.
Now looking more into details of AO PropTech, can you summarize your vision of AO PropTech, and can you also tell us about like a couple of very fascinating deals that you were involved in, challenges, and how they perform afterwards?
So look, our mission is to really transform the real estate industry into a more transparent, a more digital, a more accessible and tech-enabled, data-driven asset class. And our vision is to use that to make it, to promote healthy living, decarbonization of the industry, and generally kind of make the industry better from an E and an S standpoint, so from an ESG standpoint. And so, the building blocks of what we're trying to do is, was raising a long-term capital. So for the first fund we raised, evergreen capital, so permanent capital. For me, this was important because when you go and try to disrupt such a huge industry, we had question marks about how long it would take to actually successfully disrupt it and promote adoption. This is an industry where culture needs to change. A lot of things need to change within those large companies for the industry to evolve. So raise permanent capital, raise capital from a lot of very large real estate companies who gave us access to about $40 billion of real estate assets in Europe and in the US that we can use as a sandbox and as a test bed to get our due diligence in order when we want to decide to invest, but then give access to our portfolio companies. And last is we wanted to build in-house data science capabilities and digital transformation capabilities. The single biggest opportunity that comes from the digitization of this industry is the access to data and the ability to become more intelligent as landlords, to understand your customers better and to understand your operations better from a financial standpoint, but also from a climate standpoint. So our view is very clear what we're trying to do. And we're trying to do it with long-term capital, kind of a blend of expertise from real estate to financial engineering to data science, and kind of go at this with a 360 way. So I'll tell you that the pandemic has been a great accelerator of everything we believe in. It's exposed the shortcomings of the real estate industry. It's humbled a lot of its large players, and it's effectively made technology the savior of the industry. Savior because today you have pressure from regulators, which are asking a lot, they are putting regulations in place when it comes to climate change. And the only way to become compliant about those is to integrate technology into your operations. You have capital markets, which are a lot more demanding. So your cost of funding and the interest of equity investors will change, whether you are a tech-enabled real estate company, whether or not you are embracing net zero roadmaps. And lastly, your customers, your tenants, which I don't want to call tenants ever again, they are customers. And that's the biggest change we've seen in the real estate industry also. It's become a customer-centric industry as opposed to being a landlord-centric. So for us, it's the perfect storm. And we're going at this and we're seeing a huge acceleration of ideas, entrepreneurs coming from outside the real estate industry and trying to disrupt it. And we're seeing amazing things, and we're going into deals now where we see the likes of Amazon or the likes of the Bill Gates Foundation also coming into the same companies that we're targeting, because PropTech has become such a mainstream topic, and also it's tackling climate as well. So it's attracting a lot of talent and a lot of capital, which is great.
Can you tell us a success story in your company, like a great startup or company you invested in and it became strong and changed the world somehow?
Look, I start to say the biggest success story for me first starts with the fact that we're able to hire amazing people, that they are inspired, and now we're together like on a mission. That's huge success because we started from nothing. We're able to attract amazing people. So that's the first success. The second success is we're able to convince amazing entrepreneurs that we can be great partners for them. And that's where we spend a lot of time building the entire enterprise. I can give you some, there's plenty of great stories that I can tell you. I don't want to make any company kind of jealous, but I'll take one example, which is a company that we backed a year and a half ago called Plantific, which has created a software that digitizes the entire repair maintenance of residential buildings, and also is creating local marketplaces of professional service providers, plumbers, electricians, and so on, in order to create more competitive and more horizontally distributed workforce access. When we met them, they were in a few thousand apartments. They just shifted their business model from B2C to B2B. Amazing entrepreneurs, super resilient, super humble. And then we came in and in a small round, with a small ticket, $1 million, because it was just closing the round. We did immediately a pilot with one of our investors in another country on 5,000 units, which was probably already more than all the units they had. We realized the opportunity, which was, transform the property management side, also enable to empower local communities of workers that don't necessarily have access to an amazing workflow of jobs, suddenly being able to be connected to a big work stream of jobs. So that was great because it also ticked the ESG box. And then fast forward a year and a half to today, they have crossed 200-something thousand or 300,000 units that they're servicing. They're a huge partner for all the social housing industry, which obviously is, serving people that have, more difficulties than not. And they are expanding across countries. They are now entering the US. And, it's an amazing story to look and see entrepreneurs who are building, accelerating the growth of their businesses, taking a chance on us as much as we're taking a chance on them. And so that's one of the great success stories so far, and I hope that they continue on their mission and that we can continue to support them over time.
Wow. Now, you're an entrepreneur, you're in the industry. How do you see the industry in 5-10 years from now? Like, what do you think is the trend, and what are we gonna see in this time frame?
So, to talk about the real estate industry or the venture capital industry?
Industry, or like how technology is gonna evolve in real estate?
Look, I think technology is eating the world, and I mean it in a good way, not in a bad way. I think the changes we've seen in the world in the last 10 years or 20 years, I think we'll see more change in the next 5 years. I think we are in the early innings of an exponential explosion of how technology is actually enabling the world. We are evolving from, the previous type of traditional industries where everything was vertically integrated. You have big conglomerates of company. Everything is centralized. Knowledge is centralized. Access to capital is centralized. And we've shifted to a world where it's horizontally distributed. It's decentralized. Everyone has access to information. Information is free flowing, so everyone can educate themselves, everyone can start businesses, everyone can have access to the best talents. Today you can work from anywhere, which means when you build a business, you're not constrained by space anymore. You want to access the best talent. The best talent is in Chile. You can access that best talent. And so I think we're going to see an explosion of entrepreneurship. When it comes to real estate, I think it's very clear what's going on. There is no way back. And either as a large enterprise in real estate, you embrace technology on the climate side, but on all fronts, because really the entire industry end-to-end, from design, construction, architecture, all the way to operation, has to and will be disrupted. And today, if you're a large real estate company, you have a very clear choice to make. Do I embrace technology? And it's a pain, it takes time, investment, money. You'll make some mistake. You'll fail, you'll get up again, you'll end up, it's called what we call failing forward. If you don't do that, you will no longer be relevant very, very quickly and much faster than people anticipate. And so every time I speak, and I'm lucky enough to speak to some of those heads of very large real estate companies, I have a great sense of urgency that you cannot hide from this anymore. The old way is no longer the right way. And making money as a company, focusing only on profits, is no longer the way. your investors will, we have this sentence which says you have to do well by doing good. And so I think those companies are going to be measured as much on their profit than they will be on the ESG mandate and the ability to leverage technology into their organization. So I'm very excited and I'm very positive about what the future holds. Obviously, that's the nature of my personality. Otherwise, I wouldn't be investing in venture capital. But I feel tremendous change is ahead, and we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg right now.
Thank you. And now I would like to ask for your advice for our students. So let me put you a little bit in context. So at ESCP, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we have a Master of Science in Real Estate. So a year and a half, students are studying in Madrid and London, and then they also travel to Paris. We also open a real specialization in the Master in Management, which is the number 5 in the world according to Financial Times. So, and we have other type of tracks and masters that we combine somehow real estate. So overall, we have this year around 110 students that are watching this series, this interview, plus other people outside the school that follow us. So my question for you is, what advice would you give them to a young, talented person that studied at the ESCP and would love to enter in the PropTech world as an entrepreneur? Still, we know that PropTech has already been out there in a very successful way for some years. So it's not like they will be the first ones, but still there is a momentum. So what would be your advice to those?
The first thing I would tell them is you're most welcome. You should absolutely come. I think we haven't even scratched the surface of what the transition of the industry is going to be. Yes, PropTech has been around for a few years, but the market was not as mature as it is now, and it is not accelerating, and the market forces that are at play were not there. I think we're in the early innings of a mega generational opportunity, which will be disrupted from within, but I think a lot of the disruption will come from outsiders, people who come and question everything. Why is this happening this way, not this way? No legacy mindset, no legacy kind of mentality. You come and you unturn every stone. And so for me, and it's very important as an entrepreneur, you want to start any type of business in real estate, is trying to understand what problem are you trying to solve. Has to be concrete. You have to come and tackle very important pain points. Where the industry is today, when most of your customers are going to be, they are only going to be able to focus on immediate issues. The industry is being challenged, and so they can't do everything at the same time. So they're going to have to prioritize in terms of what's of utmost important and what's kind of a nice to have but can wait. And so I think there's never been a greater time to become an entrepreneur. And so I think I would encourage every single person to take their chance, because I think the future is very bright for people who are motivated, ambitious, and hardworking.
That's great, and I appreciate your advice. Now, one more advice, and that's the last question. This is an advice for business schools. So, as for instance, ours, ESCP. So we are the oldest business school in the world. It was founded in 1819. And we are now very, again, pioneering, very entrepreneurial. We are now actually, as you may know, like in continental Europe, that we have just a handful of strong real estate programs. It's different from the United States. They have a long tradition since the 70s in top universities, many programs there. So now we are launching all that I was mentioning before, including a PropTech incubator. And like, my question is more about in terms of education. You also has a degree in economics, business. You know this world very well. What would be your advice to us, business school leaders?
So look, first of all, I don't think I'm in a position to give anybody advice. I can give you my opinion, but I wouldn't give you advice. I think I would tell you that your role, in my view, the role of important institution in the education system, especially the ones which have been there for a long time, which have the credibility and the platform, is to really inspire the new generation. And a lot of inspiration comes from opening their minds and thinking outside the box. And a lot of the misconception about real estate. For example, if you went in the street and run a survey, 80% of the people you speak to would have no idea that real estate is by far the largest contributor to carbon emissions in the world. 40%. Everyone comes and talks to us about aviation or agriculture. This is not even 5% each. So educating your students and inspiring them that there is so much that can be accomplished in going and disrupting such a large industry. And I think you have a unique position, which is you're a very long-standing organization, and you have the credibility, and so you can really be a leader in transforming the mindset and the ambition of the people that come through your door. So that would be my 2 cents on it.
Well, thank you so much, Gregory. We wanted to make this very short, concise, getting to know you better. It has been a pleasure in the name of all ESCP community. Thank you for your time, and I hope we can stay in touch. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. And is there anything we can do to support and help? Please reach out. We want to help promote the entire ecosystem, so the door is always open at any time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Gregory. Have a fantastic day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.